Zoom to be lag, okay, and then and also some interferences. All right. So for today, parents, okay, I will introduce you to the other two person who is with me, okay, in this journey. All right. That will be Madam Masni and also Mr. Simon, who's our ICT manager. So if you have any issues with regards to MDM, okay, you can email us or even call the general office, and then we'll contact you in person. All right. Okay. For today's session, we already engaged actually Mr. David Tan, who's the director of Singapore MDM Private Limited, to brief us, okay, on what is MDM, and also he'll be sharing with us more in detail, and also the hands-on session later. Okay, if you have any questions, all right, parents, you can, okay, on your mic, okay, and do ask questions. We also have the chat function available for you if you want to ask questions during the presentation. All right. So for today's agenda, Mr. David Tan will introduce to you what is MDM. Some of you may have already heard, briefly what is MDM during our engagement session last year. Okay, but for today, Mr. David Tan will bring us through how to link your device to your child's device, and also how you can use the screen guide to manage your child's device. Okay, at the end, we have a Q&A session. However, like I mentioned just now, during the session, if you have any queries, okay, and if you are not able to follow through, okay, do let us know. Okay, you just need to on your mic or even use the chat function. All right. So with that, I shall hand over the time to Mr. David Tan. Mr. David Tan.
Thank you, Madam Faiza.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Let me just share my screen. Give me a moment. Okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah.
So I hope you can see my screen.
Yep. You can see your screen.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Today we will talk about the MDM and how we can use the MDM to link your device, your personal phone, parents, to your child's device, and how you can use the parental app screen guide to support your child's learning. Right? We will go through this in a fairly interactive manner. So if there's any questions or if you encounter any difficulties, please do raise up in the chat group, and we'll try to lead you and so that you can follow along as we go through the entire process of enrolling and linking the device. Okay, so first, I'd like to ensure and check that you do have your phone, right? Either the iPhone or Android phone. You can have on those devices. If not, you can access, if you have access to the browser. To a computer browser, then you can also use the computer browser to do the control. For the session today, in order to successfully enroll and link to your child's device, you need physical access to the child's iPad with you. So hopefully you have that together with you, as well as an email account for you to create a screen guide account. So the mobile device management, or MDM, that Admiralty Primary has selected is Mozo Manager. It is one of a brand of MDM that is selected to help manage your child's device. And what the MDM can do, for your information, is actually quite a lot, right? In essence, it is to help the school and parents to manage and control the student device use within school hours and outside of school hours. And this is just a small sample of what the MDM can do. I'll pause here for a moment so that you can have a look on what the MDM can do. Specifically, the ability to clear passcodes. So sometimes if your child has a passcode on the device and they have forgotten the passcode, or if you have forgotten the passcode, the school or yourself using the screen guide app will be able to clear the passcode. At this point, I'd like to address student privacy and how the MDM works in this case. If you are wondering, if there's someone from the school, the administrator, what can the MDM administrator see or observe on the student device, right? By design, let me assure you that Apple has designed it such a way that no user data is visible to the MDM administrator. And by user information, that indicates photos, no photos, any emails or messages, usage patterns, web browsing history, even access to camera. All these things are considered user, and the MDM administrator will not be able to access any of those information. So please be assured that no one is looking at your child's data. What the MDM can see is mostly hardware related, like the model of the iPad, how much storage is being used, is it at full capacity, MAC address, right, for Wi-Fi access, and for some troubleshooting, sometimes the school may extract the MAC address of the device. We will also be able to see the OS version of the iPad and a list of installed apps that could be on the iPad. The MDM administrator can also see the location, but only for very specific use. So for example, if the iPad is in lost mode, we can place it into lost mode and have the iPad report its location on a map so that we can determine whether the iPad is simply misplaced within the school compounds, or did someone really take the iPad and has left the school area. By default, the location service cannot be seen by the MDM, only in lost mode, then we will be able to see its location. For MDM control, during school hours, there will be centralized control by the school administrator. In other words, during the school hours, the school may decide which are the approved apps that will be visible and which are the non-approved apps that will be hidden. As this is a personal device by the parents, you may have other apps, for example, Netflix or Facebook or other educational apps. During school hours, the school may decide to say that we will only allow school-approved apps like Nearport or Kahoot, and everything else will be hidden. This is to prevent any distractions during school hours and to provide a very uniform environment for all students such that they are not distracted by non-approved or entertainment apps. The school has decided that the school hours will be from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., weekdays, Mondays to Fridays. After 4 p.m., the control will be released and the Netflix or Facebook or other apps will then appear, and parents may use the screen guide parental app control to determine whether you want to allow access or to prevent access. On weekends, full access will be given to parents to manage the student devices. For certain cases, for CCA or specific school events that may have longer or shorter school hours, the school administrator may decide to adjust or tweak these school hours slightly, but these are the broad timings for your information. So now, please get your device ready and your child's iPad with you. We are going to go through the process of linking your device to the student iPad. Hopefully you have installed Screen Guide. Please do take note that the Screen Guide app should be installed on your phone, your device, and not the student device, right? You shouldn't be installing the Screen Guide app on the student device. This is meant for you to use. The Screen Guide app is available for the Apple App Store as well as the Google Play Store. If you are using not a smartphone, if you're not using a smartphone, you may go to a browser and you can also use the browser to follow along. For parents that have yet to install the app, please try to download it now. And other parents that have already installed, please get ready. We will be going through the enrollment steps very soon. Right. If you're using a browser, you may go to screenguide.mozilla.com to access the interface. The enrollment steps, linking steps will be the same whether you're on the browser or on the phone. if you are Android user and if you do not have access to the Google Play Store to download the app, then you may use the browser instead. I understand that some of the devices, maybe the Chinese devices like Huawei or Oppo, may not have access to the Google Play Store at this moment. Okay, so let's move on, right? So after you have downloaded the app, please launch it. The first page, the app will prompt you to enter your email, right? So you can create a free email account for Screen Guide. This has to be a working email address so that if you do forget your password at some point, you will be able to reset and the password will be reset and sent to that email, right? So please do use a working email. It can be any email like Google or Yahoo. It doesn't. Okay. Right. So after you've entered your email, please give yourself a name, enter a password. Please make a mental note of your email and password. Write it down if needs be, because we will be using it later to link your device to your child's device. Right. Click the checkbox to agree to the terms and conditions, and then click on sign up. Next, the app will prompt you to create a family. So if you have set this up for the very first time, you should tap on create a family. We will talk about joining existing family after the first parent has been set up. After clicking on create a family, you may give your family a name, call it, the Tan family, or give it some fun name like, the Invisibles family, anything. It's just to indicate the group in the app, and tap on create. For the notifications, you may choose to allow notifications, or you can choose to skip it for now. Notifications can be useful because sometimes if there's any errors or alerts when you are sending a command to control your child device, a response may be sent back to the app, and you may be able to see that notification on your phone directly. So tap on notify. The next step will be to add your child to the account. So tap on add child to continue. On this page, please put your child's name. Birthday is optional. There is no need to use that. So you can choose to put it in if you want to. It doesn't really serve any purpose other than maybe identifying to the app, to yourself, or that's the birthday, right? Then tap on add child. So after tapping on add child, you'll be prompted to add a school managed device. So in this case, all the devices are actually enrolled by the school and they are considered managed device. You just simply tap on that to go to the next step. So at this point, pause. We will have to go to your child's iPad, right? So the next few steps will be done on the child's iPad and not on your phone. So you can put down your phone for now and please pick up your child's iPad. We will need to have Wi-Fi access because the iPad will need to contact the MDM service. So please do make sure that the iPad is also connected to your home Wi-Fi at this point. Okay. So on the student device, on the iPad, please launch the Safari browser and go to the website http://screen.guide/connect. Right. Once you have tapped on that onto that URL, tap on enter or go, and you will be redirected to the Mozo Manager app. If the iPad is already enrolled into the MDM, the Mozo Manager app will be there. If you are not redirected or you cannot find the Manager app, that means the device is not enrolled. You will need to bring the device back to the school for the enrollment to be completed, right? In that case, you will not be able to follow the rest of the steps, but please still stay on the session so that you can see the steps that is required, right? Right, so once the website is redirected to the Manager app, you will see this screen. And on this screen, it will prompt you to log in using the email and password that you have just created earlier on your own phone, right? So basically, we are linking this device to your account. So the email address that you have indicated earlier and the password that you entered on your phone, you have to key that in now on the student device. Please do that. Once you have done that, simply tap on login to continue. In order to identify this school belongs to Admiralty Primary School, right? There is a unique school code. At this stage, please key in 397B7 and tap on send.
Mr. David Tan, okay, can you show us the link again for the student device?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Parent need the link.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is the link, parents.
Okay. Screen.guide/connect. Okay. So if you have any questions, please indicate in the chat group. Madam Fahiza is helping me to look at the chat, right? And she will let me know. Okay. So the code again at this point 397B7. Tap on send. If everything is good, you should see a successful link to say it's been successfully linked up. At this point, you can tap on close. Is anyone encountering any problems? I did see someone has raised their hand. Is everything okay?
All right, we have a parent here from Tree
Mhm.
Courage who raised their hand. Maybe the parent would like to on your mic and yeah, give us your questions, or maybe you want to type in your chat.
Every time on my iPad we can
Uh-huh.
access to the screen guide penetrate control app connect. We cannot access. It keep loading and loading and loading.
You still tap on refresh.
There's no refresh on my iPad.
There is so on the screen guide on the top right corner, there's this little icon that is a curved arrow up. Tap on refresh to force the app to check in with the MDM. So after keying in your email, it should prompt you for the school code, right? If it's waiting to refresh or it's loading, give it a while or hit on refresh to try to force it to check in.
I don't have the refresh button.
You don't have the refresh button. It should
Oh,
be.
wait, it's here. It's here.
Yeah, it's the top right corner. Let me see. So if you can see on this screen here on the top right hand corner, opposite cancel on the top right hand corner, there is a refresh icon. You need to hit that.
I pressed refresh 4 times already.
Okay,
Yes,
give it a while. So parents, the MDM works over the internet, so it is not immediate, and it relies heavily on your Wi-Fi connectivity. So give it a while. It should normally be quite fast, unless you are in an area that has very weak internet connection. If you're at home, it should work relatively fast, right? So you should see this screen. If you do not see this screen, then maybe you have to go back, close this app, then go to screen guide /connect again. You have to get this screen to appear. If you cannot get this to appear right now, maybe you can try a bit later. The slides will be shared with the parents after the session, but it should work. Okay. So try the refresh button, and if it really doesn't work, then maybe you have to try a bit later when you have a better signal. Okay, let's move on. Right. So after you have successfully linked on the student iPad, so this is still on the iPad, you would go back to the parent device or to the web browser, and you should see the student device successfully listed under the devices tab, right? And that's it, that's done. So you have successfully linked to the child device, right? For the next part, I will want to quickly touch on how to add a second device. So most of the time, both parents will want to have the ability to manage. So here I will go through how you can add a second parent. So if your second parent is not next to you right now, it doesn't matter. I'll just run through the steps quickly so that you can do this at a later stage. So for the second parent, the initial steps are the same. You still need to key in the email, a different email, right, for that parent, and set your own password. And when you come to the first screen here, instead of creating another family, you tap on join family for the second parent to join a new existing family. So at this point, you ask for a family code. So the second parent will then need to find the first parent or sit down to the next first parent. On the first parent's device, the first parent will need to go to the app, go under members, and to click on add a member. When prompted to add a member, you can add a child. So if you've got twins in the level and you want to add a second child with a second device, you add a child and then you go through the same steps as before. But in this case, we want to add another guardian, right? It may not necessarily be another parent. So maybe a grandparent, someone that you want to have empower to control the device. You can add a second guardian. Tap on that. And a unique code will be generated, all right, on the first parent's device. So that's a typo. So on the first parent, when you say I want to add a guardian, so in this case, in my screenshot, the unique code is 7338D8. So on your device, it will be a different code. It will be unique code for every family. So once the first parent have generated the code, the second parent will need to key that code in. So either you're sitting next to the parent, you can just key it immediately, or you can try to copy it and share either via a message or an email, right? I'm not too sure how long this code will be valid for. So ideally just do it immediately just by sitting next to the first parent. So for the second parent, just key in this code from the first parent under that family code field and click join. And that's it. The second parent will then be successfully linked to the family, and both parents will have the ability to manage the student device. All right. At this point, any questions? I realize we may still be going a bit fast. Right? No one has any questions. If not, we will proceed. So now that you have successfully linked your device to the child's iPad, we can try out some of these functions so you can see how it works, right? So go back to your screen guide app on your phone. Under devices, you will see your child and the device of your child. Tap into that device, right? In this case, my device is called Emily's iPad. Just tap into that. And you'll be presented with a list of functions that the screen guide parental control app can do. All right. For this next part, let's try out the most basic one, which is timeout. So timeout is the ability for the parents to simply disable the device usage for your child for a specific time, right? So tap into timeout. And on the next screen, you will be presented with two things, either block now or schedule, right? So I'd like you to try the block now. Under the block now, you can select the duration. So you can select to block the device use for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So as you scroll up, you can see that it can be a couple of hours or customized time, right? So for now, please just select maybe 15 or 30 minutes on this part and click to block, right? Just tap on click to block. And the command will be sent out. As I mentioned earlier, the MDM works over the internet. So as you click to block, the command will be sent from your device. It will go into the MDM in the cloud. And the MDM, after receiving the command, will try to send that command down to the device, which is also in front of you. So give it a few moments. And if everything is successful on the child device, the device will be blocked and locked into the Mozilla Manager app with a timer to indicate that, this is 15 minutes. It will start counting down. So the timeout function is very useful because you may not want your child to be using the device if they're not supposed to be using at that point. And you can simply set a time to say that this iPad is locked towards is locked, and they will not be able to access other apps on the iPad, right? So the timeout function is very, very easy and a very useful tool to use. At this point, maybe if you go up to the previous screen, so on the first screen, under alerts and pending, right? So under alerts and pending, you may see a notification or a exclamation mark. You may tap into that to see the status of that command. So if the command is still pending to be sent out, you will be able to see it there. You can swipe down from the middle of the screen to force the app to refresh with the MDM servers to get the latest status. So if you still see it pending, that means the command is still, not sent out or is still trying to reach the child device. But give it some time. Once it has successfully been pushed to the student device, that pending sign will be gone, and you can force refresh it. And if needs be, towards the bottom, there is a option to push the command again. So you can try to push that timeout command one more time, or a few more times if there's it's not going through, and then it should then reach the device. Ultimately, you will want to check back in with this alerts and pending section to make sure that any commands that you have sent out has been successfully enforced, and it shouldn't have a pending notification there. So this is where you should always come back to anytime you either enforce a command or to release a command, right? So if you release a command, if it releases a timeout and it doesn't reach the device, you will also see that it is pending there, right? Using timeout, you can also set a recurring schedule, right? So this is useful so that you don't have to set it every day. So one good example is to set a dinner time, right? So every day, the child needs to eat. So you can set a recurring timeout schedule. You can name it, call it dinner time, right? Mondays to Fridays. Oh no, it's actually every day. So you need to eat on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. So you put every day, and you put, like, for example, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., right? Turn it on, and then the command will be sent to the device. And every day between the hours of 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., the iPad will automatically be blocked with timeout. And if the child is using the device, at 5:59, at 6 p.m., suddenly the iPad will lock itself, and then your child will know that, oh, it's time for dinner, right? So you can set it for any schedules, right? Dinner time. Another useful one is sleep time. So if you want to enforce a good habit to say that, okay, after 10 p.m., no more iPad, you can set a sleep time from 10 p.m. to the following morning, maybe 6 a.m., right? Such that it'll be blocked between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then at 6 a.m., it'll be released. And then the child will come to school with the iPad already unlocked, right? Try not to set any schedules close to the school timing, because there will still be traveling time, and the iPad requires internet access in order to receive and release the profile, the setting. So set it at 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. To ensure the device is released from parental control. And then when they reach the school around 7 plus, the iPad will be ready for school use. Anyway, from 7 a.m. onwards, the school profile will then be pushed in to block any other unauthorized or not approved apps policies as well, right? So recurring schedule timeout policy is very, very useful in this case, right? So please try that out, right? At least to see that it's working. You can see it's working, and to also to check that your link is working lah, right? So we'll give you a few moments to try it out. Again, please understand that the MDM is not immediate. So when you send a command, it will not happen immediately. Don't be alarmed. Always check back with your app under alerts and pending to see if that command has gone through, right? Sometimes due to network limitations or the device not being able to connect to the network, it will be shown as pending, and then you just simply need to refresh or to force the command again until the device receives it. Then on the parent side, you'll see that it's no longer pending, that it should work. Any commands that you send out will have this sort of lag, so don't be too worried. That's how the nature of the MDM, how it works. Okay, so we'll give you a few minutes to try it out, to lock, to observe how it works, and then send a command to unlock it before we go on to the next part, which is on web filters. If you encounter any problems, please type in the chat, or you can speak up on the Zoom session, and so we can hear you.
Excuse me, David Tan, our iPad, we cannot get access to the parentry control connect. They keep loading and loading. They seems like it can't connect to the Wi-Fi.
Okay, so we will have to look at this separately. So maybe after the session, maybe we can get in touch with the school, and we will get Mr. Simon to take a look at it. Maybe the connection or the enrollment is not done successfully.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay. The parental control app is meant for parents to manage the child. So just now that seems to be the student control himself. That's very good. Okay. So if everyone is okay, we'll go on to the next part. The next one, which I will share, is web filters. I feel this web filter is a very powerful and useful tool for families. Obviously, when using technology of any sort with younger children, access to internet is always a concern. So using web filters, parents may decide which websites to block. And this is unique to every family. So depending on your family and what you feel should be allowed or not allowed, you can use the web filters to always block a specific website. So if you tap into web filters, and under web filters, there is always allow and always block. I would suggest using always block. It is exclusive, so you can only choose one. Always allow is very, very restrictive and does not always work. So for example, if you choose always allow disney.com, it will only allow disney.com and no other websites. But due to it being Apple and Google or whatever, if you go to apple.com, it always work. If you go to google.com, it may always work. So my suggestion is always use the always block. So go under always block, type in the URL and tap add. Then once you have successfully added it, it will be shown at the bottom. So in the screenshot here, I've added facebook.com. So you can add facebook.com. So for example, your family says, no, we don't allow social media. I don't want TikTok. I don't want Twitter or facebook.com. You can add the URL here and tap on add to add to that list. Right? You can add more than one URL, but probably not a whole lot. So please don't add a few hundred in there. It'll be very slow. But for your more important ones, between 5 to 10, I think is pretty good. Right? So once you have added the URL, you have to slide the green button at the bottom to enable it. So slide it. Similarly to timeout, the command will be sent out. You can check under alerts and pending to see if it's been successfully sent out. Once it has been sent out, you can go to the child's iPad, try to go to facebook.com. It should be restricted. A message should be shown to say this website is restricted, or that the page will simply not load. That's how you know that it's not working. All right. So this is very good because as a parent, you may want to prevent your child from going to any websites, especially if they are unsupervised. To disable it, come back to this part here, and you click or slide to disable it, and then the profile after some time will be sent out and you'll be removed from the device, and then the child can then visit that website. During school hours, the school will always manage it from the network side. The MOE will manage it from the network side, and the school may optionally add in additional websites as needed to ensure that the children do not access any other websites that's not approved lah, right? But outside of school hours, then parents, you may use this to control the URLs. All right. Again, I'll give you a few minutes to release the URL web filters if you have enabled it. If you have enabled it, you can enable a few of them at the same time. So in my screenshot here as well, you can see that you have timeout enabled, you've got web filter enabled. So you can have a few of them enabled at the same time. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So you can choose to leave it turned on, so you'll be on permanently for that device. The next part, we will talk on restrictions, which is another feature of the parental app. All right. Okay, let's move on. So restrictions is really like settings on the iPad. So if you go to iPad settings, you will see that you have the ability to turn off some of the things in settings. For example, you can turn off camera, you can turn off App Store, and so forth, right? So using this restrictions section, when the child is not supervised, if you're still at work and the child is at home alone or with your helper or with the grandparents, you can use restrictions to simply turn off specific items, right? And the list of items you see is all listed as you scroll down. These are what can be controlled. First, you need to turn restrictions on. So you need to slide restrictions enabled on the top part to empower the MDM to control that. So once you have turned it on, towards the bottom, all those settings will then light up, all right, or not be grayed out. Then you can optionally choose what you want to enable or disable. So just now we mentioned, web filters and so forth. So if there's a concern about the child going to websites when they're not being supervised, then you can use restrictions to simply hide Safari browser. So when you turn this on, the Safari browser will then be hidden, and the child will have no ability to go to any websites. So if you don't want to have to add URLs in the web filters, you can choose to simply hide the browser, right? You can use this to block access to iTunes. You can use this to block the camera or to block iMessage if you do not want them to use iMessage for communication between friends and so forth. You can use all these things in this list down here, right? So it's a fairly long list, and you can scroll down to see what can be blocked or not blocked, right? If you want to test it now, I would recommend you can try to use hide Safari or try to block the camera and observe that these two things are actually hidden on the iPad. When you turn on restriction, we are not actually deleting Safari or camera. It's just the MDM will ask the iPad to hide it. So it is still there. And once you slide it back or you turn this restriction off, then those two apps will then reappear. All right. So there's a question, I think, on Apple IDs. The school may provide a school Apple ID, but you can also use your own Apple ID if you need to. Using your own Apple ID will allow you to install your own apps. With the MDM, actually no Apple ID is required. So if there's family or the student do not have an Apple ID, don't be alarmed. The school will be able to use the system to install all the school approved apps, right? But for personal apps, you will then need your own Apple ID, right? Right, so straight restrictions is fairly straightforward. So let's try a more interesting one, which is to restrict specific apps. So if you come out to the main screen, next one down is to restrict specific apps, and you tap into that. So restrict specific apps is useful in the sense that if your child comes to you and says that I want to use some of these apps for my schoolwork, and you're not able to supervise them, then you can use show only selected apps, right? Because very often your child may come to you to say that, Daddy, Mommy, I need to use the iPad for school, and you turn off timeout, or you allow them access to it, but end up they be playing some games or watching Netflix and things like that. So in order to circumvent that, you can say that, okay, you say you want to use the iPad for schoolwork. Tell me what apps you want to use. So you need Safari to do some research. You need to use, a notes app to write down some notes, or you to use Google Docs to write a document. Then I will only select and allow you access to those apps, right? So by tapping into, for example, here, show only selected apps. If you tap into that, you can click on add apps and select the apps that you want to be shown. So in this case, I've selected Book Creator, which is a book creation app, currency app. So they want to do some, content on money exchange. And then the last one is, some anatomy app for the schoolwork. Then they can do that. You can add that in for these three apps. Set the duration, again, similar to timeout, certain duration, 1 hour, 2 hours, or based on a recurring schedule. You can say that, okay, homework time, you can only use these three apps for homework time between the hours of 8 to 9 p.m. So after dinner, then 8 to 9 p.m., you do your homework. I will only allow you these three apps, right? So you can set a schedule, or you can set a duration, all right? Click on save, and then you go back to the previous screen. And then when you turn that on, all the apps on the iPad, so if the iPad has 20 apps, all of them will be hidden, and only these three apps will be shown, in addition to the settings app, which will always be there, and maybe the MDM app that will always be there. But other than these three apps, all the other apps will be hidden, and the child can only use Book Creator, Currency, and the Anatomy app for homework purposes. Right. So restrict specific app is very, very useful in order to control how your child uses the device, and make sure that they are on track and not trying to say that I'll use other things in addition to the apps that they want to do. Okay. There are other functions in the screen guide which you can explore, but these are some of the more important ones that will be very, very useful for you. All right. I didn't put down, I should have put this down, but the one about removing the password, so we can go back one screen, a couple of screens. So on this main screen, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, the last one, there's one that says remove password. I didn't do much on that because it's essentially a single tap. So if your child has set or changed the password to the device, and this is the device passcode, if they have changed it to something that you're not aware of, and when you try to access it, it is locked, or the child has forgotten the device password, you can simply go to your app, tap on remove password. Once the command comes in, the passcode will be removed, and you have access to the iPad again. Then you can have to set it again. but there is no danger of, forgetting the password and not be able to gain access to the iPad and having to erase and format the iPad again from scratch. Right, so the check remove password is very useful. Another option is if you are not, if you do not have access to this, the school administrator can always remove it as well. So during school hours, if your child has a passcode and they have forgotten it, then the school administrator can use this to reset. Outside of school hours, you can always use this to reset for if needs be. Okay. I think there's some other questions not directly related to the MDM. Any questions on the screen guide part? Okay, let me stop my screen sharing so I can see the chat. Okay, so there are a number of questions. So the last part, we'll spend some time on Q&A to answer any concerns from parents. Let me see, there's this one. Screen guide app should be installed on a parent's mobile phone instead of a child. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so for parents, the screen guide app should be installed on your personal device. So if you're an iPhone user, you can download the app from the App Store, and then you use your email to create an account and you log in from there, right? If you're an Android user, if you're a Samsung user, Android phone, then you can get it from the Google Play Store. Unfortunately, I think for the China phones, Huawei, Oppo, and all that, because of the sanctions by the US, some of these devices may not have access to the Google Play Store. Then you will not be able to download the screen guide app on your phone. In this case, you can always use the web browser, right? You can still use the web browser on the Android phone, on the Huawei, for example, to go to screenguide.mozo.com, and you can still do it from there. Or you can go to a computer with a browser and you can still manage your child's device from there, right? So unfortunately for the Chinese brands, due to how the Google services and the relationship between US and China, there are some limitations there. You have to install the screen guide app on your phone and not on the child's iPad, right? So you cannot use the iPad to manage itself. You should be using your own personal device or a web browser on your work computer or your home computer. You should use that. Don't install the screen guide app on the student device, right? So there is a question on how to reset the passcode. So if you go to the screen guide app on the section where you see all the functions, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is one part that says remove password, right? I think Stephanie, right? So to remove password, you simply tap into that and then click on the button that says remove password. The command will be sent out and the password will be removed on the student's device. Do take note, this is a device passcode and not the Apple ID password. So if you sign into an Apple ID and you forgot your Apple ID password, this is not what it does, right? You will need to approach Apple to get Apple's help to reset the Apple ID password or the iCloud password. This is the passcode, right, on your device, on your phone, on your iPad. If you have a 4-digit or 6-digit device passcode to unlock it, this is the one that will remove it. All right. So please understand the difference between the Apple ID password and the device passcode. This is to reset and clear the device passcode and not for Apple ID. Okay. There's this question from Charlene. can we trace the iPad location using the app? All right. So the app itself, you cannot use that to trace the location. On the iPad, if you're signed to iCloud account, so you can use iCloud.com Apple services to track its location. If you're not using iCloud.com, then you may contact the school. The school may use the administrator part, right, which is the main dashboard, to place the iPad into lost mode and to track its location on your behalf. So there's two ways to do location tracking for iPad, for a misplaced iPad, either through the school, ICT, they can use that to do that. Or if you're signed to iCloud.com, you can use your own iCloud.com to try to get its location. Bear in mind, location tracking relies on internet connection. So for phones, normally it's okay because we have a SIM card. It is always online, even if it's outside of home. For iPads, predominantly they are Wi-Fi models. So they have Wi-Fi in school or Wi-Fi at home. But if it's misplaced outside on the roads, you lost it in a taxi or on a bus, until it joins to a Wi-Fi, you will not be able to get it to report its location, right? So it may not work as well, but if it's misplaced somewhere and is joined to a Wi-Fi, you will be able to see its location either through iCloud.com or either through the school's administrator. They can get the location for you, right? So in short, can we trace the iPad location with the Screen Guide app? The short answer is no, right? The parents will not be able to use that app to track its location. Right? If you want to download an app to the device. Okay, so this is not directly related to the MDM. So perhaps I can also have to answer some of this. When the iPad is managed by the school will have MDM control, and the school will have some ability to install apps onto the student's device. So for example, if the school have a list of apps which is school approved, for example, Kahoot, Nearpod, you want to use ClassKick. So let's say 10 apps. The school will be able to get those apps in their system and they'll push it out to all students, ensuring that all students will have all the school apps during school time. However, because this is a personal device that the parents have purchased, you of course will have freedom to install your own apps. In order to install your own apps, you will need an Apple ID on the device, your own Apple ID, to install anything from the App Store. Those will not be managed by the school. So this is on every family, on every parent to say, okay, I want to install this on this learning app, for example, on this iPad. It's up to you. You have to use your own Apple ID. The school will not be installing it on your behalf. The school will only manage the school-approved apps in that sense, right? So having said that, Apple ID is not mandatory, it's not required. Everything that the school would want the students to be using, the school will have the ability to use the MDM to push those apps down to the iPads. Your own Apple ID is only for your own personal apps, right? Which Apple ID should you use, right? By legal terms, the child would not own an Apple ID under the age of 16 in Singapore, right? So you would most likely be using your own account. So as a parent, you sign in with your own account, or if you want to create one just for your child, you will have to fake the year. It cannot be a 10-year-old year. You have to put a fake year to make it older, right? But above 16, then you can use that Apple ID purely for your child. But legally, in Singapore, Apple IDs, anyone below the age of 16 cannot legally create an Apple ID. Personally, I tend to use my own account so that I will put it there. I will turn off in-app purchases so to ensure that the child don't go and buy a lot of Smurf berries. So under the Screen Guide app, under restrictions, there's one option to turn off in-app purchase. So you can make sure that it's turned on. Or on the device directly, you can use Apple's settings to make sure that in-app purchase is turned off, right? I like to use my own Apple ID because if my child installs anything or any of those free apps, I will get a notification. I will see that he has installed something. So it's for me to track. But you can choose to have one specific Apple ID for your child if you want to by creating another one. but just take note that the year of birth cannot be below 16 years, right? Let me see what we set. Okay, there's one question on, can the MDM restrict the app that we download? Yes, during school hours. So as I mentioned earlier, outside of school hours, you can install your own apps, right? Some of the games, some Netflix, some entertainment stuff, that's fine because it is a personal device that belongs to you, not to the school. However, during school hours, to ensure a conducive learning environment for everyone, the school will put in a whitelist to say that only these apps will be visible, everything else will be hidden, right? To remove any distractions. So the apps are not deleted, they are simply hidden. So during school hours, between the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., the school will say a whitelist, let's say these 10 apps, everything else other than these 10 apps will be hidden, all right? And then after 4 p.m., the controls will be released and then all your apps will then appear. So that's how it works. We use a whitelist because the school is not able to foresee what are the apps that all the students and parents have installed. So we'll use a whitelist to say these are the 10, 20 apps that's only approved. Everything else blanket is hidden, right? That's how we will do it. But don't worry, you can still install your own personal apps. It will still be there. Your high score in that game will still be there. It is simply hidden during school hours. Okay. Any other questions here? Just let me scroll through. Is there any questions on the line? If any parents want to ask a question directly, please feel free to do so. Just scrolling out to see what other questions that are here. Okay, I think there's one question regarding iCloud account and then the App Store account, right? The school may have created a managed Apple ID. A managed Apple ID is an account that the school has created for the student to use. That is for iCloud. And the managed Apple ID that the school creates will allow the student to have access to 200 gigabytes of iCloud storage, so they can store their schoolwork there. You can sign in independently from the iCloud and the App Store. So on the iCloud side, you can use the school account to access the 200 gigabytes of iCloud storage. Then on the App Store part, you just make sure you sign up from App Store and you sign in with the personal Apple ID so you can make your personal app purchases, right? Because the school Apple ID have no ability to make any purchases. The payment or the ability to buy anything is turned off and is mandatory by Apple. So the managed Apple ID used by the school has no ability to buy anything. We use that for iCloud. And then for your own personal apps, you can use the Apple ID, your own personal Apple ID under the App Store section to install those apps, right? Any school apps, the school will push down if needs be. You shouldn't need to have your own Apple ID if you choose not to create one. So I think there's still some confusion, I think, on the school hours. So after the school hour, the app that we download can be restricted on the MDM. Yes, it can still be restricted by the MDM. So after the school, after 4 p.m., so for example, let's use Netflix as an example. If you install Netflix, during the school hours, Netflix will be hidden. At 4 p.m., the controls are removed and Netflix will then appear. Now, as a parent, the Netflix is installed, you have approved it at some point, but you may not want your child to be watching, Netflix unsupervised at home, all right? So using the Screen Guide Parental app, you can then go into that app or the browser, the Screen Guide website, and you can restrict Netflix such that it is again hidden, right? Until you get back home after work and you see that your child has finished the homework, then you allow Netflix so your child can watch some cartoons. So after 4 p.m., all restrictions are lifted from the school because school will say, okay, parents, I return the control to you. And then every family, depending on how your family functions, you may then choose to block Netflix or any of the personal apps, or you may choose to just let the apps, your personal apps, be there for the child to use, right? Oftentimes, because they are not supervised, both parents could still be at work. You may want to have a policy in there to say block the iPad or block the app, only allow them to use selected apps when they are not supervised. So that's the purpose of the Screen Guide app, to allow parents have the ability to control the students after school hours, but you're not back home yet. So this allows you to do that in between when the child is at home unsupervised by you. So that's the purpose of the Screen Guide parental controls. Your app, because it is managed, because the iPad is managed by the MDM, the school will have the ability to block it. But after 4 p.m., the school will release everything. There's no reason for the school to continue to lock down because your iPad could be used, could be shared by, other people in the family, and you may want to have some entertainment and some games on that personal device. That is entirely on the parent side to control. Okay. Let me check on the WhatsApp if there's anything on the Zoom chat. I think I caught all the password. Okay. So yeah, if you do not have the child's iPad with you right now, that's fine. The slides and the instructions will be shared after this session, so you can follow it along at home. You will need the physical access to the child device, right? If the iPad is not ready or not enrolled into the school, please work with the ICT department in the school to get it enrolled. Then you can do the linking, all right? There's one question. Can parents block certain websites or set up access duration on a certain website? Yes, right? So just now on the web filter, you can set that. Sorry, let me requalify that. You can block it. You can block it, but I don't think you can set a schedule, recurring schedule. So if you block Disney.com, then it will be blocked for that time period. But you cannot set it to be on a recurring thing where it's only blocked for a few hours a day. I don't think that's possible. I could be wrong. I don't have a device here to check. So if you want to block a website, normally you just block it sort of permanently. If you really want to allow and disallow, then you may need to go into the Screen Guide app to turn it on and off. There's no charge to the Screen Guide app. So the Mozo Manager MDM by the school is paid for, and that is to manage the student devices. The Screen Guide app is a free add-on for parents, the value add to allow parents to control. I cannot guarantee what happens in future, but right now it is free, but it's unlikely that they will make it chargeable because it is built into the base of what the school can control. And we're simply allowing parents that ability to also control outside of school hours. So right now it is free. You install the app from the App Store and from the Google Play Store. It is free. You can also go to screenguide.mozo.com using a browser, and it is free. There's no charges involved. Okay. I don't see any more questions. Let me just scroll up to see if I miss any questions towards the top. Okay, so Okay, I think it's I think I've seen all the questions. Any other questions on the channel, perhaps, or there's no other questions on the chat? Maybe a last question. Any parents? Last question. So the screen guide app is really helpful for parents. As I'm a parent myself, this really allows a parent to have a so-called a kill switch, because there is always concern when younger children are using technology, especially when they are unsupervised. Having this will give a kill switch to the parents to decide when they can use the device when you're not around them. And to have different policies. Again, every family is unique. Some families may allow Facebook, some families may not allow Facebook. So it's up to every family to decide what is the family policy and to have the agreement with a child, and then set it in screen guide so that make sure that they follow a schedule and a habit and build a good habit on this. The thing I would seek your patience is the screen guide will have a lag. So very often I get feedback that it's not working, it's very slow. That's how the nature of the MDM. So after you send a command, you may not observe on the iPad it's immediately locked or website is immediately blocked. You do have to allow some time for the commands to go up to the cloud before it comes back down to the iPad. One good way is to go to the app under alerts and pending, always check back there because sometimes it is stuck at that point where it's not properly sent to the device. You can always try to refresh it, or you can try to push the command again. So long as it's not under the pending part, it should have successfully reached the end device and it should be working. Right. If you encounter any problems, always feel free to contact the school, and the school can try to help out. But largely, it's quite okay. We have not foreseen a lot of issues with this across the other schools as well. Can the MDM restrict other devices other than? Yeah, unfortunately, no, because the screen guide is only meant for parents in Admiralty Primary School to manage the devices that is enrolled under the school. So if you have another child, older child, or younger child in a different school that is not on this program, then you will not be able to use the screen guide to manage that child. It must be managed by the school in order for screen guide to work. Okay. All right. I think we, let me see if there's any questions here. Okay, one more question. Yeah, Madam Masni, what's the question? Did I miss out?
There is a question about whether MDM can restrict other devices than the iPad, which are linked to the school. So if I understand this question, whether MDM can restrict other devices, like for example, maybe Samsung.
Oh, okay. I understood that question differently. Okay, so Mozo Manager is only to manage iPads, and that's why you're on this iPad workshop. So it will only manage that. So for some other parents that have chosen to use a Chromebook or a Android, they will be on a different MDM, which is not this MDM. So this MDM is only able to manage Apple devices. I understood this question to be, if a parent wants to use screen guide to manage another student or another child in a different school or in a different level, then can they use the screen guide app, parental control app, to control that device? The answer is no, right? All the devices must be under the school, under this program, and then the parent will be able to control those iPads. Other schools will be a different thing altogether. Okay. Right. So this is only for the iPads lah. We will have a different session for the other parents on a different platform. Okay. So we are nearing 5 o'clock. If there are no other questions, then maybe I'll return the time to Madam Fahiza to close off. If you don't have an opportunity, or you have a question at a later stage that you thought of, please send it to the school, and the school will contact me and I can try to answer, give a response to that. But otherwise, thank you parents very much for your time and attention. I appreciate that you have taken the effort to work with the school on this journey. This is really for the benefit of the child, and to use the technology in a very conducive manner, in a very controlled manner, that the school feels it should be done. And hopefully you see the value of the screen guide and how parents will have the power to also manage the student use of the device, of the technology, after 4 p.m. outside of school hours. Very often parents have this big concern on this. All right. Madam Faiza, pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Tan. Dear parents, you still have other queries, okay? Please do contact us. I already leave the email address here in the chat, okay? Or even if you can't contact us, okay, you can go through the form teachers, and we'll get back to you ASAP. I know that some parents may not be able to follow through today because you do not have your child's device, but no worries. Do try, okay? When we already uploaded the recording and also the PDF, the PowerPoint slides to you. All right. So parents, if there's no other questions, okay, yeah, we will end the session for today. Thank you, parents. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, parents.
See you kapan?
Bye-bye.
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 A lot of students also joined the session.
Yeah, I think because the iPad is with them. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave the session. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Is it okay? Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay, I shall end for everyone here. Thank you so much, everyone.